Hi, boys and girls. So today you read the story Clothes Long Ago. And hopefully you had a discussion on about how clothing was made a long time ago. The different materials that they used, how clothes were fastened. For example, they used a bone to make a needle. And they used animal skins, wool, cotton, different types of material. Here's our bone. And the clothing looks much different from the clothing that we use today. So in this unit, we've been talking about past and present. So you have a passage today, telephones, then and now. You can pause the video if you need to pull this passage out. And I'm going to read this to you. The telephone was invented many years ago. Long ago, all telephones were as big as a lunchbox. They had to stay on a table or wall. Telephones had only one purpose. They were used to speak to other people. Today, many people use cellular phones. Cellular phones can be smaller than your hand. They can be moved anywhere. These phones can do many things. You can use them to send text messages. You can use them to take photographs. You can use them to play games. There is something else you can use cell phones to do. You can still use them to speak to other people. I know when I was growing up, we still had a phone that was connected to the wall. So if you want, you could rip off the first page to go back and forth to look at your questions. Question number 1, when were telephones invented? Well, the very first sentence tells me telephones were invented many years ago. So when I'm looking at number 1, when were telephones invented? In the past, in the present, or in the future? Long ago to me would mean A, in the past. Question number 2. What is being compared in this passage? Text messages and picture messages? Early telephones and cell telephones? Cordless telephones and cell phones? What do you think? If you go back, the title right here tells me telephones, then and now. It's not really talking about text messages because phones long ago, you weren't able to send a text message. We didn't have texting back then. So I'm going to cross that out. It also doesn't tell me about cordless phones. Remember that a great strategy to use when you're not sure, or even if you are sure, is just to cross out answers you know can't be correct. That leaves me with early telephones and cell phones. Number 3, cellular phones are very different from the first telephones, but they do have one thing in common. What part of the passage shows us how cellular phones and telephones are the same? A, cellular phones can be smaller than your hand. These phones do many things. You can still use them to speak to other people. You can pause the video while you find this in the passage if you need to. And I know my very last sentence here in the passage tells me you can still use them to speak to other people. What is telephones then and now mostly about? A, how phones from the past are different from cellular phones. B, what you could do with telephones in the past. C, how people speak to other people. And you can pause the video while you think about this. And I'm going to fill in my answer. I picked A. How phones from the past are different from cellular phones. Again, going back to my title, then and now, comparing the two types of telephones. When you turn to the next page, question 5A, what does the passage say you can do with a cell phone. And they started this sentence for you right here. With a cell phone, you can, so remember they restated the question. You're going to finish it and end it with a punctuation mark. With a cell phone, you can, and I'm looking right here, if you need to stop and pause, your information to answer that question will be in this last paragraph. I'm writing a lot for mine. So for mine, I put, with a cell phone, you can send messages, comma, take pictures, comma, play games, comma, and speak to people. You can pause if you'd like to copy mine. But it's okay if you even just picked one thing from the passage. So it would be okay if you put, with a cell phone, you can send messages, period. Or you can take photographs, period. You can play games, period. Draw a person using a cell phone. You can pause the video and draw your picture. What did you learn from telephones then and now? I would like you to start your answer with, I learned, because we want to restate that question in our answer. I learned. Tell me what you learned. End it with a period. For example, I learned that long ago telephones were as big as a lunchbox, period. I learned long ago telephones had one purpose, period. I learned that today many people use cell phones. You can go back in your passage to tell me any piece of information that you learned ending with a period. And in your last box here, you could draw a picture of that.